Imagine going to school every day in a building with no air conditioning, sitting next to a freeway, breathing air that's actively making you sick, and being told that the problem is that you just don't work hard enough. This is the reality for hundreds of thousands of students right here in Los Angeles, and it's not an accident. Today we're going to show you exactly how a broken education system and a damaged environment are locked in a self-damaging cycle that traps some of LA's most vulnerable communities and what it will take to break it.
In the low-income communities served by LAUSD, poor education and environmental harm reinforce each other in a damaging cycle. Underfunded schools leave students without the knowledge to understand or respond to the environmental issues destroying their neighborhoods. And at the same time, pollution, extreme heat, and toxic air damages student health, disrupt attendance, and weaken the school system further. Each problem feeds the other, causing a positive feedback loop. And without intervention, both keep getting worse. This connects directly to the three of the UN Sustainable Development Goals: quality education, reduced inequalities, and climate action, all three of which are being failed simultaneously in these communities, and little is being done to fix it.
Now let's look at the science of what's actually happening in these communities, and we'll start with going over photochemical smog. Photochemical smog forms when sunlight reacts with nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds released by cars and industrial facilities. In neighborhoods like Watts and Boyle Heights, that means daily exposure to smog caused by the 710 freeway and oil refineries in nearby Wilmington. The sources of this pollution are not random. Freeways, refineries, and warehouses are all deliberately clustered in low-income neighborhoods, locking in chronic pollution exposure for the people who live and go to school there. The greenhouse effect, a process by which gases like carbon dioxide and methane trap heat from the sun within Earth's atmosphere, causing temperatures to rise, is amplifying all of this, turning these already hot neighborhoods into extreme urban heat islands. Schools without air conditioning become nearly unlearnable environments in these conditions, and the health consequences are severe. Pollution and human health research links chronic exposure to asthma, developmental delays, and cognitive impairment, all of which directly reduces students' ability to show up to school and learn.
The worst part is that the students that have to bear this are overwhelmingly low-income Latino and Black students in Watts, Boyle Heights, and South LA. But this isn't random. In the 1930s, federal redlining policies locked families of color out of most of LA's housing, confining them to neighborhoods and near industrial zones. Then, in the 1950s, freeways were deliberately routed through these same communities, demolishing homes and permanently embedding pollution sources into the places where the most vulnerable people lived. The pollution, the underfunded schools, the lack of green space, it was all designed this way. The way LA's infrastructure was designed is a system designed for the poor to stay poor and to make it harder for minorities to succeed. This process goes against a supposed American dream. Those who start disadvantaged don't have nearly the same opportunities.
This raises the question of why don't these communities just demand change? The answer is that enormous barriers stand in their way. One being a language barrier. Many families are first or second generation immigrants whose primary language is Spanish. But public hearings, school board meetings, and other processes to go about making change are often not made as readily available to Spanish speakers in these places. Also, parents working 2 or 3 jobs simply don't have time to attend a city council meeting held during week hours across town. And a significant portion of residents in these neighborhoods are undocumented, meaning that they can't vote, reducing the political accountability that officials feel towards them, even when decisions directly affect their neighborhood. Perhaps most critically, the students most harmed by these problems are almost never given a seat at the table when solutions are being designed. The people who feel the consequences the most are the ones with the least say.
The impacts of this cycle can be categorized threefold. Environmentally, industrial zoning and freeway construction have destroyed green space and tree canopy in these neighborhoods, leaving students with no natural cooling, no clean air buffers, and toxic soil and runoff near their schools. On a human level, chronic asthma and respiratory illness drive up absenteeism, while developmental effects from long-term pollution exposure directly reduce academic performance. The sociocultural damage runs even deeper. Students are graduating with no environmental literacy, no understanding of the systems harming them, and no tools to fight back. Economically, families face mounting healthcare costs they can't afford. Parents lose wages caring for sick children, and students who drop out lose an estimated hundreds of thousands of dollars in a lifetime earnings. Property values fall, the local tax base shrinks, and the cycle tightens.
But what's actually being done, and what's actually working? Environmentally, California's Assembly Bill 617, signed in 2017, created community air monitoring programs, specifically in South LA and Boyle Heights, to track and reduce local emissions. LAUSD's $3 billion greening plan, proposed in 2024, would replace asphalt with trees and green space at schools across Boyle Heights, directly cooling campuses and reducing pollution exposure for students. LAUSD also adopted a climate literacy resolution in February of 2022, creating a task force to embed climate justice and green career preparation in every subject across the district. This directly addresses the gap in environmental education that keeps these communities uniformed and disempowered. One example of how we can change the narrative of what's happening in these communities is by looking at Finland, where they overhauled the entire school funding system to make it a fully equitable system regardless of neighborhood's wealth. 93% of students now graduate high school in Finland, which is 17% higher than the US. All this while spending 30% less per student. There is a clear correlation. When you stop letting zip code determine education quality, outcomes improve for everyone. Economically, the federal Justice 40 initiative committed 40% of all federal climate and clean energy investments to communities overburdened by pollution. This created green jobs and cleaner infrastructure in the exact neighborhoods that have been exploited the longest. And LAUSD's own commitment to 100% renewable energy by 2040, backed by $138 million from California's Clean Energy Jobs Act, is projected to save $5.6 million annually, which is money that will go straight back to the schools.
So, what can you actually do? For one, attend an LAUSD school board meeting. Show up. Take up space. Support Assembly Bill 617 and push for air quality monitoring in your neighborhood. Advocate for green schoolyards. Trees and shade aren't luxuries. They should be a right. Learn about these systems that created this problem, because an educated community is the most powerful force for change. The cycle between bad education and environmental harm is not inevitable, but it will only end when we decide to break it.